Welcome to the Huskers podcast.
We're live. What's up, everybody? It is January 21st, and we are officially in the off season. It is the absolute best time of the year. We've been in the off season for minutes after we won our bowl game. Not to brag, we're big time bowl game winners now. But now that the national championship is over, Notre Dame is lost once again. Got embarrassed again on the big stage, and Ohio State has won another national championship. Congrats to them. We are officially in off-season title mode, which is the single greatest time of year. This is the time of year when Nebraska fans, we can be anybody we want to be. We can't lose. There's no reality checks. There's no, you don't play any of the games. The spring game, hope springs eternal. Everything's fantastic. Everything's good. Everything's great. I'm here with my brother, Andrew. Andrew, how are you this evening, the day after Notre Dame fell apart again on the big stage?
I mean, that was the best. That was the best moment of the new year. That pass to Jeremiah Smith at the very end of the game was just so well done. I almost cried. I was like, this is so good. Like Notre Dame fans just completely melting down on Twitter and all of the social spheres. Oh, yeah, you hate to see it, but at the same time, you love to see it. That was good. It was a good start. I didn't want to be dealing with them. And as a little bonus, Nebraska might get a small payday from the Big Ten doing so well this.
We got 4 or 5 different things to cover on this game today. So we're going to cover the game. We're going to do a quick summary of the season as well. We're going to talk a little bit about the Huskers season, how it went. We're going to talk transfers, talk transfer portal tracker. There's unbelievable amount of movement happening. And so we can cover a lot of different bases. But first, let's do a quick word. Guys, check out pipeline-jerky.com. This now is more important than ever. We got transfer recruits coming in. We're talking to those guys. The offensive line is getting revamped. Go to pipeline-jerky.com. Every purchase directly on that site gives a royalty back to the players. Go to we can get some huskguystore.com. We got some cool merch. We got great shirts. We got some great hats. It's time to load up Dana Mania. Huskers, the diamond shine anywhere. We got some great hats, shirts, all sorts of good stuff on huskguystore.com. And then also, even though the football season's over, you can still do it with the NFL Underdog Fantasy. If you're a new player, get 50% deposit match up to $1,000 with the promo code HuskGuys. So if you put $1,000 in, you get $500. If you put $2,000 in, you get $500. You get $1,000. It's a great deal. It's a ton of fun. Andrew and I are spending a ton of time on it. You put together a lot of different lineups. Go higher or lower based on whoever's going to play
today. And because I got that ski trip coming up tomorrow, which currently is canceled because it's a snowpocalypse in Florida. And nobody knows how to drive or move or do anything. They're more scared of snow than hurricanes down here. It's absolutely wild. But I just cashed out on Underdog. So if I make my flight, get to go spend that on a little bit. A little side cash. Why not?
All right. So let's jump into this. Let's talk about I want to talk about the game last night first before we kind of jump into this stuff. All right. So the first and I think most obvious everybody's talked about a lot is so Ohio State loses last year and Ryan Day is completely in a fit. They've lost to Michigan again at the end of the year last year. And then who'd they lose to at the end of the year to finish their season? No, who they play in the bowl game? Whoever it is, they finished the season in an absolute fit, and we're we are going to spare no expense.
Well, it even started with 2 years ago when with Georgia.
2 years ago with Georgia, but really last year,
a play from making the title game.
Last year was definitely the big Ohio State gauntlet thrown down of no, we are going to absolutely unload as much. There's no stone unturned. We're going to spend as much money as we can. They were very blatant, very transparent, very open, saying we are putting $20 million into this team, right? Mm-hmm. And at this point, right, they put $20 million into it. They bought the best quarterback on the market in Will Howard. They got the best running back in Judkins from Ole Miss. They got the best defensive back from Alabama and Caleb Downs, and they bought themselves a national championship. I mean, what do you think of that? It's crazy. They truly, it's one of the first times ever that you have been able to truly buy a national championship.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I like to be Saban-esque, even though it's only partially true. But, he says it's not about what you spend, but who you spend on. And that's true. But also you got to have a lot of money to get the guys that you really want. But yeah, I mean, they got one of the biggest difference makers in the country on defense, Caleb Downs. Like he instantly became their leader on the defensive side. You have to also spend to get these freshmen nowadays, like Jeremiah Smith. They get 3 years of him.
Yeah,
and he is a ridiculous talent. So I mean, it's the reality of the sport. I don't think I blame Ohio State in any way. I think that they rallied together. I think they played within the current rules, like as far as we know. I mean, it's not. I don't think like going into the season, I don't think it was scandalous that they spent that much.
No.
It was just like eye popping.
Yeah,
And it was just like, holy smokes. In the grand scheme of sports, it's 20 million is what you pay a point guard.
yeah.
But it's college sports. So
Yeah.
it's
Well, I
still
think
a little, still a little rattling.
I think the shocking part of it is that of how quickly it got to this point. Like I would agree, and I think the question becomes, when does it, like, what's the leveling out point? So now, next year everybody's going to be able to pay this $20 to $25 million out of the university funds on top of NIL. So
yeah,
you got 20 to 25 million coming from the university. You add 20 million on top of that from an NIL fund. You have 40 to $50 million fund. Like, what's the number stop at? Is it 50? Is it 100? Is it 200? Because I agree. Like, there's a billionaire looking at this. It's like 20 million. That's it. I can buy an entire national championship win for $20 million. Like, I pay
my favorite team. Sure.
I pay a point guard that. Like, Travis Kelce makes that by himself, right? One player, like Mahomes makes like $40 million. Like, so it, if you're an owner and you look at that and you're trying to win 20 million, it's really nothing. I think it's shocking how fast it got to that point. Because 2 years ago, like when they're hacking together the collectives, if you had $1 million, you were like on top of the world. Like if you had $1 million for your whole roster, it was amazing. And now quarterbacks are going for 10. And that happened like that. It happened in like the blink of an eye. And they're just like, holy cow, like I cannot believe how fast this all happened. But then, I mean, but it's now, if there's a number on it and it's like 20 million will get you, in the playoffs, like, damn, I bet a lot of people are going to pay it now. Don't you think people are going to say, okay, 20 is the new number?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I see Warren Buffett just suddenly becoming a much bigger Nebraska fan. Like, he's my hope. Honestly, he is my only hope. I don't know who else is working it over, but no, it is crazy. It's unbelievable that, like, I mean, you watch what Oregon's doing. Like, they are knocking on the door.
Yeah.
And it is strictly based on they can get almost anybody that they want right now.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the reality of which it's going. I have gotten to the point where I don't really care when it's like, okay, like if a bunch of rich dudes want to buy teams, like, okay, but like, what about the fans that the NILs are just like hitting up, and they're just like, every dollar counts, like it's a friggin' like the political campaign or something. And you're like, dude, I buy season tickets, I buy merch, I buy, I like make side donations and stuff. I'm not giving $400 to this NIL for a guy that might not be on campus in 6 months. Like for a lot of fans, that's the reality, is like, I don't have $1 million to spare. I have $50.
Right.
Like, what's this really going to get me?
If you have it, you should get pipeline jerky is what you should buy.
Yeah, you can get plenty of jerky for $50. It's great.
I mean,
that's kind of the thing about, I guess, NIL now is like, I get that that's what you have to play the game for as long as that is the game. But the concern for me is like, there's fans that if you're just like sucking them dry of their money and everything, and you're not even close to competing with like one rich dude, it's like, it's kind of defeating, and you just have to put guardrails on it. Like, I think you're going to start to lose those people.
A couple of things I'll throw at you. So I'm reading this book, as I was telling you about. It's called, The Price. The Price by Armin Katayan. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. But it's all about NIL. It just came out this month. It's about like the last 2 years. So I'm going to throw a couple different things at you from it that are very relevant to what's happening right now. One of them, Taulia Tagovailoa, the younger brother of Tua, apparently last year before playing in the Duke's Mayo game, said, I don't want to play in this bowl game unless you give me $50,000 to play in the bowl game. What do you think about something like that in college sports being going on behind the scenes?
No, that's a no from me. And also, like, just let him go. It's the Duke's Mayo Bowl.
It's the Mayo. Poured mayo on him.
I know. I mean, depending how bad your coach wants mayo poured on his head, I would just be like, dude, you've got to be kidding me. You're sucking $50,000 more from your team's future NIL funds and stuff to play in a Mayo Bowl. No, I dislike.
Out on that. But they also outline, and they're basically like, and this is probably going to be true, is they're going to get to a point that they're going to have a dollar value per roster value that gets you to certain levels, right? And so at least, as it stands now, 20 million gets you to playoff, which Oregon did. Right. So if you look at the playoff, Oregon paid that. Notre Dame was probably close. Ohio State definitely did. Texas definitely did. Georgia definitely did. But then it kind of lays it out where, like, all right, if you're at 20 million, you make the playoff. Maybe you have an Indiana type season, but even Indiana is like raising a ton of money too, and moves down into like the different tiers. Where, like, all right, if you're at 15, you make the Duke's Mayo Bowl. If you're at 10, you're playing in the Pinstripe Bowl, which is where we're at. But it's kind of an interesting, like, they had a direct correlation to it's like the Dodgers. It's like the LA Dodgers. Like, all right, if you're gonna you can buy your pro team, you can buy your college team. Anyway, kind of crazy stuff happening in the NIL world. But here is like my bigger takeaway from last night, and is we took Ohio State to the wire.
Yeah. Moral victory, national champion.
So they scored on the first 5 drives last night, right? It was 21-0 at halftime.
I know they had 4. I know they had 4 in a row.
Yes, 31, right?
Yeah.
They scored the first 5 drives. They scored the first 5 drives. Will Howard did not have an incompletion at halftime, and they basically scored completely at will. Obviously, Notre Dame battled back, but for the most part, it was really never that close. You look at our drive charts against them, which I'm looking at right now. They went 4 plays downs, 3 plays 3 and out. Then they scored a couple touchdowns, skipped those. Then they missed a field goal. Then they went punt, interception, punt, punt, punt. Didn't have any of those last night. Their punter didn't even get any work last night. So, there's something there.
There's a little something there. I think there's something to munch on for several months until August. That is an absolutely classic moral victory, because I'm pretty sure it was their smallest margin of victory on the year.
I mean,
which is great.
It's not nothing. It's
great. Like if you're not going to lose, you might as well be that. Or right? Wait, no. If you're going to lose, you might as well be the other team's smallest margin of victory on the year.
Yeah, but we also should have won that game. I don't know.
The missed touchdown passes. I mean, it was unbelievable.
It was crazy to watch Ohio State dominate every single team in the playoff. When I was like, this team, they booed Ryan Day at halftime of our game.
I know.
They didn't want him to come out of the tunnel.
Different squad since A, we started motivating them, and then B, when Michigan beat them, I think it was just all right,
switch flipped.
This is ridiculous. Losing. So they lost 2 games in the season. They didn't win the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And then they won the national title.
It's crazy.
Think about here's a random hypothetical for you, but just like my musings and stuff today as well. How many more titles would Nebraska have won if the 12-team playoff always existed? Because I think that there were some years in the 80s you could very well make an argument that.
Oh, you're going backwards.
I'm going backward.
I think you meant 99, 2000.
I mean, there was just those years where we had, a game or something that literally 2-point conversions slipping through our fingertips and stuff like that. That it's holy cow, how much different does it go if you get a second or a third chance for Ohio State, and then they took it and won it all? I mean, think about the scoring explosion. They're not losing twice.
Right. Yeah, 91, 92, 93. Those are good ones. It's a good hypothetical. You could spend a lot of time on that one.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know. There's some things and stuff to build on there. The Tony White defense seemed to hold up pretty well. Ohio State was also in their own heads and stuff for most of the season, but yeah, let's go through and like rank our favorite wins from the year. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm in. Tony White, rest in peace. May he forever. Tony, gone. My number one favorite win is Wisconsin. For one, because it was the only win in the last 6 games of the season, so that was fun. But also, it finally, that's just such a big monkey to get off your back. It was a dominant win. It's 44-25. That's so I put that as your number one. I put the bowl game. I put bowl game as number 2. I think proving you can win a bowl game, proving you made a bowl game, like getting over that hump, winning a 1-score game.
Okay.
I didn't say Colorado. Colorado's number 1.
You didn't say Colorado.
I'm scrolling backwards through the wins.
You were there.
I'm scrolling backwards through the wins. Colorado's the best game I've been to in 25 years. So that's number 1. Colorado's number 1. Wisconsin's number 2. Bowl game's number 3. There you go.
1, 2, 3. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I think that's probably the close to universal list and stuff there. The Wisconsin game was awesome because it just like it was everything manifested that we'd been dreaming of and stuff all year. But so was Colorado. It was unbelievable. Just like the absolute beatdown going up 28-zip. There were just moments this season that I would never forget. And that Tommy Hill pick 6 is probably like the one. Like if I'm picking one play that was just my favorite of the season, it was the Tommy Hill pick 6 against Colorado.
That's my favorite play of the last. I'm going to keep saying 20 years.
Just decades.
Yeah. But true. That Hill is probably the last time I felt like that at Memorial Stadium was Colorado in Dominican Sue, or no, it was the Alex Henry kick. It was probably the last time I felt that level of like euphoria in a rival game at Memorial Stadium, Nebraska. Like that, those moments don't come.
God, it was unbelievable. And Notre Dame also lost that day, which was fantastic. To Northern Illinois.
Notre Dame lost and Iowa lost that game.
Iowa lost to Iowa State. Yeah, it was. It was one of the best football weekends of my life. And it just was not that much more fun the rest of the way.
That didn't happen the rest of the year. So Notre Dame won every single game from there on out. Iowa won a ton of their games. We did not win as many games. But the good news is that was last year, and this year we're going to figure out how to win in November, and we're going to figure out.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. Yeah. Why? Why would we not?
This is the year. It's back.
Wisconsin was our only game of the season. Just scrolling down, as you can see here, only game of the season in which we had a 100+ yard rusher. That is something that I hope to change going into next year. And additionally, if you look at our high receiving yard totals, Nair in game 1 of the season against UTEP was our only 100+ yard receiver on the season.
Man, it's crazy. But I also, it was pointed out last night, Notre Dame didn't have a 100-yard receiver all season.
Wow!
So it's not like unheard of,
but they picked to be extremely good at running the ball.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm just like I'm more spitballing on like it feels. Both of these things feel atrocious. Of like we have no 100-yard rushers or receivers, but it's like you can make the national title game without having a 100-yard receiver the entire season because you're good at rushing. Like you got to pick one, and we're kind of average at both, which is not optimal. The good news is all of our transfer portal players are going to save everything, which is great.
Yeah. The losses here and stuff, just looking back on the year that was, just a brief look backwards before we start just diving completely forwards. I thought Rayola on the season, like our passing and rushing game here, we'll start with. Our Rayola on the season was like, would you put him as above the hype, at the hype, below what you had expected?
All right, I'm looking something up too.
Because he had 2,819 yards passing, 13 touchdowns, which was not as good as I thought we were going to be. And then he led the Big Ten in interceptions.
I think that first 5 to 6 games, I think he was everything.
Yeah.
everything we hoped he would be and then some. Like, he's calm, he's poised, he makes throws. He was cool and calm in the pocket. He made unbelievable passes like all over the field. He's throwing darts. He throws the deep ball well. The last 6 games was like,
yeah, I mean, just ups and downs. And then Wisconsin, though, like, gosh, that was a game where you're just like, holy, like, are we good again?
And then you're back. I mean, he's got the moxie. He's got it going on. Yeah, no, I think he makes a lot of weird decisions. Like, even in the bowl game, he slid short of the first down multiple times. He did that a ton all season. Like, he makes a ton of like youth mistakes. Here's kind of like this is what I was looking up. I'm trying to figure out, like, in this transfer portal era, like, we are unbelievably blessed. We got Dylan, and he's a staple because we have some stability from one year to the next. Like, I think that's huge, and it's going to be unheard of in college football to have like any stability of anything. But it is a little interesting. Like, basically the 10 best players in college football, the 10 best quarterbacks are all transfers. Yeah. They're all like late senior to 5th year senior transfers.
Yeah.
The number, who led the country in passing this year?
Kyle McCord. Syracuse.
Yeah.
Formerly Ohio State.
Yeah, well, formerly Nebraska on campus before. Like, remember that? Like, 48 hours, like Kyle McCord on campus. Like, we're about to have this kid here, and
apparently he's pretty good.
Yeah, and then Dylan obviously shows up. We bail on Kyle McCord. He leaves. He threw for 4,700 yards. 4,700 yards.
Yeah.
So. I'm more like, he had, so what? I'm looking at Dylan. Dylan was 27 for 400. He had 2,800. So he had 4,700 yards. He had 34 touchdowns. Dylan had 13. Obviously, it's like impossible to compare the two, but I'm more looking at like the top 10 quarterbacks: Kyle McCord, Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Shedeur transferred. Cam Ward obviously transferred. Will Howard transferred. Garrett Nussmeier transferred. Dylan Gabriel is a 6-year transfer. And then the national championship, Riley Leonard was a 5th-year transfer. I'm kind of like asking the question, like, I want to build with Dylan. I hope he's here for 2 or 3 years. Yes. I think we're blessed to have him.
Yeah.
But also, is the right recipe actually like to plug in a 5th year? That seems to be what everybody in the playoff did.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like, you look at the Big Ten as well. Passing leaders just by completion percentage: Will Howard, transfer; Dylan Gabriel, transfer; Will Rogers, Washington, transfer; Curtis Rourke, transfer; and then Raiola, who's a freshman. So
yeah.
So you've got some decent company. Actually, I mean, he just beat out Drew Aller there. Max Brosmer, transfer, etc. So, I mean, it's the advantage for quarterback, I guess. There is just that, like, if we can get some stability, good Lord, how awesome would that be?
Amazing.
To say, okay, we actually have a returning quarterback that our offense knows this year. But then you look at our rushing and our receiving, and it's like, it's skill players. It's the roster building is just so hard every single year now. Right. So, like, now we lose Dowdell, right?
Start over.
So Emmett Johnson went in the portal for a hot minute and then came out. That would have been our top 2 rushers. Ramir Johnson graduates, and then our 4th leading rusher is Ja'Cory Barney Jr. on the year.
Well, he's back.
So our only returner that's a true running back is Emmett Johnson at this point, which I'm ecstatic about, but probably going to need to add another body back there. But those are things where it's like, okay, now we have a known entity in Emmett Johnson, and we've got a known entity in Dylan Raiola. What about receiver? No, it's completely
all gone.
Jamal Banks, 1 year transfer. He was our best receiver. I thought he was a good pickup. I thought he did great. He had very sure hands. He was awesome on the season. Nair, ups and downs, definitely lost us the Iowa game. I probably will never forgive him, and I don't care to see him ever again. Ja'Cory Barney, though, like, again, the power of stability is just amazing. Like if you can build some chemistry with Dylan Raiola and Ja'Cory Barney comes in as our a true freshman, and he's our 3rd leading receiver, and he led the team in receptions. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then Fedoni, gone.
The NFL? You think Fedoni's going to get drafted? Did I miss something?
Yeah, he's a big body. He's very athletic. He was an elite recruit. I
feel like he'd make more money in NIL than he's about to make in NFL.
I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Missing that.
Yeah. Bork, gone. So of our top receivers, like returning players, I mean, that is like crazy to look at.
Can we talk about Jalen Lloyd?
Jalen Lloyd is sadness, and so is Malachi Coleman. But go ahead.
That to me is like the biggest. I mean, I feel like I'm down in the dumps on like portal and NIL and stuff right now because I just feel like that to me, they're like the beauty of college football, and I think there's a million reasons to love it.
Yeah.
But there's certainly one element that I know you and I love, and I know a lot of Nebraska fans love, is like the homegrown kid that you truly get to follow. You know, you start following even when he's in like 8th grade or freshman year of high school. You're like, oh, this kid's pretty good. Like he's playing varsity as as a freshman. This is pretty sweet. And then, sophomore year, junior, he starts to get recruited. He commits as a junior. Senior year, he's got a breakout year. He becomes all state. And then, he comes to Nebraska and he redshirts because he's not that good. And then sophomore year is a breakout season. Junior is a huge season. Senior year, he's like, an All-American. Like you've basically followed a kid for 7 years.
Like someone that like sticks it out. And
yeah, but that's a 7-year time frame of following a kid who's from Omaha that like we get to home, you watch him in, the state championship game or you follow him in the newspaper.
Right.
And when you have all the homegrown kids that are leaving after a year, and everybody on Twitter is like, we don't need them and blah, blah, blah. We got better transfers. Like it's less about that for me. And it's more like the emotional connection to your state and to your hometown team and the kids who are homegrown and the kids who are from here. That's a huge bummer because now we have we'll get into like the transfers that are coming in. They're great. They're going to be good.
Yes.
But they're rentals. They're mercenaries. They're Jamal Banks. They're Zay Nair. They're here for 90 days. It's like I don't know. It's more like just a bigger bummer of like, I love the homegrown kids. I want them to be successful. It's so cool if you truly can get a local kid to succeed. So I don't know. That's my old man yells at clouds moment.
Wants to cheer for the, those like made for TV movies or whatever. Like the homegrown kid helps revive the program. Like, God, I mean, how bad did we want it to work out with Frost and stuff?
Yeah.
But like they're on a micro level, like I would love for some kid from Creighton Prep to just roll in there and like be the guy that helps revive the program. Like everyone would.
But even just I don't know, you just think about like the locker room and like the guys who are there, and maybe you're overthinking it, but I don't think we are because so many of our best teams had that true core that was Nebraska homegrown kids that, could truly be the heart and soul of the program. Like who are the kids that can say like, yeah, I grew up watching this team. I grew up coming to the stadium. My dad grew up coming to the stadium. And now when you just have all these like rentals that are kind of coming in flying in from all over the country, they're good. They'll play hard. They'll do their thing. But like, they don't know the tradition, the history of the program. Their parents didn't grow up watching it. Their grandparents didn't grow up watching it. So
and especially at Nebraska, like the whole walk-on tradition, like now we're going from roster sizes are getting cut. Like we were going from 140 plus guys down to 105. And I believe right now the last count was 133. So like you've got like 28 bodies to still shed before August.
Yeah, it's about to be pretty bad. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm looking at a list too.
You've got all these people to end up like trying to figure out what to do with, and like spring ball just becomes like if you are, the best players are going to make it, which is awesome in one sense. Like, and I get that. I get the whole like, the strong survive or whatever, and like the Darwinism of the sport and stuff. Like if you're the best, you'll get the best money. If you get the best money, you're going to make the roster. Like, and on it goes. But it kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's more. I mean, it's like, hey, I get it. I'll adapt. And that's what we do. You got to adapt. You got to move on. Like if you want to win, you got to do it. Ohio State did it. Ohio State does not care about any of like the mushy gushy stuff I'm talking about. They're like, hey, who's the best running back in the country? Oh, it's Judkins over in Ole Miss. Okay, give him whatever he needs. Who's the best quarterback? It's a Kansas State kid. Okay, cool. Go get him. Who's the best defensive back?
Right. Go get a running back.
It's they don't like, oh, he's Omaha West Side kid. They don't care. It's like just get the best kid.
It really like sucks to say it, frankly, but it's like right now, if I said you could line up Dane Key out wide or Jalen Lloyd,
you pick
how would you take Dane Key?
And that's like when you break it down and you see who we got, they're all better. Absolutely. Yeah. Like Dane Key is better. Like all of these transfers we're about to talk about, they are better, and they're going to be instant impact players, which is what it takes to win. It's more just a bummer that like Danny Kalen, it's like, I don't know, he's a good player, he's been a great backup. Like he probably wouldn't have played. I don't blame him for leaving. I don't blame Jalen Lloyd for leaving. Like he saw the writing on the wall. He's like, I didn't play this year. I'm not going to play next year. Totally get it. It's more just a bummer that like these guys who are like 4 and 5 stars that are coming through are just like peacing out. Anyway, but what do you want to dive into a couple of these guys?
On to
the D-man.
Well, yeah, onto the defense here too. I mean, just to recap them, because we had a pretty up and down season there on defense. I mean, the overall recap for them was that the secondary is what kind of ended up needing the most work, and I think actually a lot of people probably did know that going in. Other than Sierra Wright, like kind of jumping off the page, I don't think too many people were thrilled about how the secondary ended up. But I just, on that point that you were saying, like, everybody loves the hometown kid. How about John Bullock?
Yeah,
like
he's great. Perfect.
Omaha, born and raised, former walk-on, and ends up ascending basically to, captain status, big-time leader, as I think, a fifth-year senior, third on the team in tackles. So you look at the tackles leaders, and we are shedding. We are shedding big time.
Yeah,
we've got a lot to replace. Gifford's gone. Singleton potentially maybe coming back.
He's back. He's back.
What's happening there? He's officially back. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean they made like he's like 26 years old. That should be fine.
Yeah, perfect. It's fine. Enjoy yourself while you can. I mean, like that's on and on it goes. We've got major replacements and stuff to do on the defensive side of the ball. The biggest losses are Ty and Nash, though. That's going to just be that goes from the strongest unit on probably our whole team, our defensive line. Like just pound for pound as a unit, I would say, yeah, I would probably pick the D line Ty and Nash were an absolute force. So losing them's tough, but we've got hope for next year.
I mean, this will be interesting how this all like plays out. I would say historically when our players transfer, there is like everybody hits him with like, oh, good riddance. We didn't need him. He was never any good. All this stuff, right? Yeah. And a lot of times, like they're transferring to community colleges and JUCOs and Division II and FCS and like
not this year.
These guys are like, I mean, this list is impressive. Like
it is.
Jamari Butler, you got Jamari to LSU.
When I look at the list, it makes me very much
I'm like, God, man, like,
where they're going.
Jamari Butler to LSU, James Williams to Florida State, Stephen Thompson to Florida State, Prince Will to Ole Miss, Kalen to Virginia, Mackay to Missouri. I mean, that's LSU, Florida State, Ole Miss, Missouri, Connecticut, Minnesota, Oklahoma State, Kentucky to A&M. These are big time programs that are like poaching our players now. So it's a little less like they're going to like community colleges. It's more like, dang, they're going to LSU. Like that's like Brian Kelly coming in and getting our guys. Like that's not good. But also you're like, man, maybe we did have good players on our team.
Yeah, you love hearing about like, DeColdis Crawford going to like Louisiana Tech, and you're like, okay, well, I guess.
Yeah, well, obviously that was a
miss.
miss.
Else wanted him.
Yeah, Jeff Sims, that was a miss. Like, got it. He never played again. Like, got it.
Yeah,
like these guys never see the field. Big time miss. But the ones who were, man, it's like, oh man, if these guys go wreak havoc somewhere, that's a problem.
To mention, so Prince Will and James Williams are rated as top 25 transfers.
James Williams is a little generous, but Prince Will is legit.
However, we had 0 transfers inside the top 50 last year. Huskers are bringing in 3 this year. So getting into like the replacement, because the cavalry is coming, and this is what keeps you going all off season is like it starts with signing day, which was early, like December 4th this year. Pulled in a solid class. Ranking 22nd overall. That's where we want to be. If you're going to be a top 25 team, you got to recruit at a top 25 level, pretty much period, unless you want to outcoach everybody. If you want to be Iowa, awesome. But like, you just, you have a ceiling in place with that talent level. You just do. That's just the reality of it. So good to see us hauling in 20 commits and, a solid who's who towards the top. Like, I think looking at who we lost this year, we're looking at like 4 or 5 players here that are possible instant starters as true freshmen, or at least competing for it. Cortez Mills, especially at receiver, even though it's like a stacked receiving room now, he is a stud. Yeah. That was a big time get. He flipped from Oklahoma last second. Dawson Merritt as well. He was committed to Alabama. I mean, he is an animal. He's our highest rated recruit, another 4-star. Malcolm Simpson, look at the losses on the D-line. He's coming to us out of Texas. 4-star defensive lineman to replace 2 departing stud defensive linemen. I mean, he could push for some time. And then Dawson Merritt with Christian Jones at linebacker. I mean, you would love to see these guys locked up for 3 years here. Like this.
Yeah.
And then Sean Hammerbeck rounding out our 6th overall rated recruit as an offensive tackle. Obviously, the O-line is in need of urgent and immediate repairs.
Yeah, it's a good list. I mean, it's the hope springs eternal. Like Cortez is a stud, Dawson's a stud. All these guys are. I mean, this is a big time. Like I think Rule can really recruit, and a lot of these guys, they believe what he's selling. They're coming in, and I think, this is the stuff that gets me going. But I think that the transfers are probably more exciting for me because they're more instant impact.
Yeah, the biggest, I mean, just with how fast it happened, was Williams Nwaneri getting us off on the right foot, because so his high school coach signed with us, and then he ditched Missouri with hits the portal, commits to Nebraska within 14 seconds, and then everyone is like, oh, tampering. It's like, well, he probably talks to his high school coach, and he probably told him to come here.
There's a lot of tampering everywhere.
But still, I mean, God, that he's 1 year removed from being a top 10 recruit in the country.
Yep.
I mean, who would have thought that 2 years ago that we would end up with Dylan Raioli and Williams Nwaneri, 2 top 10 recruits? Absolutely phenomenal. And
I think and a kid like him too, that, you read the Missouri fan comments and they're like, oh, he wasn't any good. He's only, he's 18.
Please.
Give him another year with lifting weights, another year of in a college program. It's hard to have instant impact.
He's a year removed from getting Chase Young comparisons.
Well, but I think that's I think this is another factor of the transfer portal, which becomes crazy though, is college players to take. They used to be allowed to get 4 to 5 years to develop, and now it's they come out and they demand to start right away as a freshman. You're it's hard to start in the SEC as a freshman, and he did. And it probably didn't play as much as he wanted, but give this kid another year or two, and if we can keep him this year and next year, I think in 2 years he'll be a monster.
Yeah, I mean, you go from James Williams and Jamari Butler to something that should get everyone excited is Keona Davis, who also entered the portal, came right back out. Shout out to 1890 Collective for that one. Whatever happened there, I don't know. Don't ask questions.
In and out.
Right back out. And then Keona Davis on one side and Nwaneri on the other side. That's potentially 2 NFL-ready DNs on either side there. Then you start stacking the receiving core there a little bit too. So Dane Key, Nija, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I believe it's Nija Hunter. He had almost 50 catches at Cal. He's a redshirt freshman, so he's actually got 3 years, which is huge. Dane Key is a junior. He was Kentucky's best receiver. When he actually initially left, people thought, okay, his receiver coach went to Nebraska. There's no way he's just going to go to the NFL draft, but he's sticking around in college for another year, which is awesome. So he draft worthy last year. He's an instant starter. I think Dane Key's probably going to be our best receiver.
I've watched a lot.
Pretty much on day one.
I watched a lot of Dane Key film. I've watched an unhealthy amount of Dane Key film. Big time player. 47 catches last year, 42 the year before, 37. 3 straight years of pretty good amount of catches, which, those are numbers that we don't put up. Averages 15 yards a catch, 14 touchdowns. He's a really good player. And he's just somebody that Dylan needs. Dylan needs that senior level guy that we thought Jamal Banks was probably going to be. And he kind of was a handful of times. Yeah. The sure-handed guy that he can look to make all his crazy throws. We just never really had that.
Yeah. And so now you're all of a sudden working with, just skill players alone. Now you've got a returning running back, and then you look at what we're in a returning quarterback. and you look at who we're bringing in, and we've got Key, Hunter, and then you throw in Cortez Mills, and then what about like Demetrius Bell? Does he stick around and live to the hype? Ja'Cory Barney, like you're working with some serious weapons all of a sudden. And then rounding it out, we had Elijah Pritchett and Son McCullough. Those are just our top 5 transfers. McCullough was a great get. He was 4-star ranked safety coming out of high school, so he's coming to us from Oklahoma. And then Elijah Pritchett, apparently some personality problems. It's okay. Matt Rule is basically allegedly he's a future pastor, and he will heal him from the inside out. So nothing to worry about there. Absolutely.
I mean, he's a starter on a playoff level team. He's an outstanding player. Again, he's like fits into that category of like you need experience. You want a guy that's coming from a championship level program, played under Saban. That's a big time get on the offensive line.
Yeah, and then the transfer portal as a whole, I would say just like the one thing that it like is redeeming about it is that you can turn your team over in a hurry, and you can plug in gaps much faster than having to like develop a player for 2-3 years and stuff like it used to be. And so, yeah, I mean, you look at who we've added on at the linebacker position, which again, if I looked back, I would say, oh gosh, like that's not looking good. But then this fella, Marcus Watson Trent, he was the Sunbelt Defensive Player of the Year.
Bang.
And yeah, gets ranked like a 3-star or whatever. Don't care. Like his production is remarkable. This guy racked up over 100 tackles and stuff on the season. Like you don't just do that. I don't care like what level it is. Productivity here is so key. And so some of these rankings and stuff can end up being skewed based on like where you're transferring from, but it just shouldn't be that way. Like Marcus Watson Trent he might actually be our best linebacker next year, despite having a lower ranking outside of the top 500. Like you're a conference player of the year for a reason. Then we get our backup quarterback, which is nice. Traded Danny Kalen for Marcos Davila,
the best.
Made it rain down in Texas. Went to Purdue and didn't love what he saw there.
Don't blame him.
Andrew Marshall coming to us from Idaho. More exciting about him is he's like a return specialist as well. And then we keep the Georgia pipeline alive with Justin Rhett. He's a redshirt freshman, so he's got a couple years to spare here. And he's a cornerback coming out of Georgia. So we have got some studs coming.
And I think that, obviously, God, what is this? There he is. How do you say our new wide receivers coach? How do you say his name?
Daykel.
I mean, it's another one of the like the storylines that runs across college football is, you get the Kentucky wide receivers coach. He brings over Hardly Gilmore. He brings over Dane Key. He brings over, it's like you bring over these instant impact players that are based on the relationships they have. Just like the relationships across football are crazy that you almost, it's like you start building a relationship with a 16-year-old and you basically have 6 years to continue to build that relationship. And maybe he transfers to a senior, it's like, if you're truly playing like the long game or then when that coach leaves, they follow that kid to like the next spot. So he's done a good job, like on an instant impact standpoint of, hey, it's like, what are you bringing with you? He's like, oh, here's my guys. Here's Hardly Gilmore. Here's Dane Key. Here's the guys I'm bringing with. So that seems to be an upgrade. What are we doing on special teams? Is that what's happening?
Oh my God. Well, I mean, that's a great question. Just 10 years running is what are we doing on special teams? Just like hasn't been a clear answer, but I actually tweeted today. I don't know if you saw. Nebraska finished the year with, do you know how many punt return yards?
Yeah, I did see it. It was embarrassing. 73. Which is less than, isn't that less than the Johnny Rodgers punt return?
That's the most punt return yards that we've had in the last 4 seasons.
Dude, how long was the Johnny the Jet torn loose from the shoes? So that's probably 70 yards.
Yeah.
It's great.
So we
less than one play.
It's
what a nightmare. I mean, but it's not even like
our longest punt returns in a. I can pull this up because I was just looking it up. But yeah, like our longest punt return in a game was Eric Hagg, the 95-yarder
against
Texas.
Texas, yeah.
And so 95 yards on one play, 73 yards in the whole season.
I just don't even get. We have good players. Corey Barney's like we've had shifty players. We just like never done. Like I mean that's the chip of the iceberg of how egregious special teams has been. When you add in like Boston College blocked an extra point and got 2 points out of it on a touchdown that we had.
And we had 10 combined block kicks between punts and field goals this year.
But like a PAT is like a.
Oh yeah.
So what are you lost points on a touchdown? That's impossible. Like that's. I mean, just like the stuff that we were doing was just shocking. And then catching punts within the 5-yard line, getting punts blocked, missing field goals. Like it's an atrocity.
Been some interesting names thrown around. Honestly, people are still clamoring for Bill Bush. I normally just kind of let these things play out. There's no reason to like just jump the gun and go all in on your guy because like frankly they're just not listening to who your guy is.
Yeah.
That's like Matt Rule's just scrolling Twitter like God, somebody better have a good suggestion in here.
Did you see what he just put out by the way? Like an hour ago. So he, before the season, had said the Big Ten is best conference in football and should get 4 teams into the playoff every single year. Do you remember this?
Okay. Yeah.
Feinbaum came out and was like, he basically was like, remember when he met? Rule just tweeted that. And he was like, congrats on a great season. Hope everybody has a great year, especially Paul Feinbaum for my good friend Paul Feinbaum or something, and he like just tweeted he tweeted the compilation of like Feinbaum being like the Big Ten should never get 4 teams in, which I guess that was something the thing I was saying at the top. Like
God, he's been saving that receipt for months.
He's got that one. Well, it is interesting from like I think this year was very validating in that sense and like encouraging to me truly from a like. I mean, I would say that for the entire Alabama run and the Georgia run, like that's as hopeless as you could possibly feel because you're like, what is going on? Nobody's ever going to beat Alabama. No one's ever going to beat Georgia. This is insane, the run these guys are on. They have all the best 5 stars. They have all the best 4 stars. They are so much better than everybody. The last 2 national championships have all been played by Northern teams. Washington, Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame. No SEC teams. Like the NIL, I mean, despite the issues with it, like it has leveled the playing field. It has opened up this opportunity for us that, God, if we could just seize it one time, it's right there. And
what should like excite us going forward is not necessarily the individual talent. I mean, that is exciting for sure. Like someone like Dane Key, could he be our Trey Palmer of this year? Like, right. I get that. But you need those guys, but you need them to be playing in the right system. And what's like kind of exciting is that other than Matt Rule, you have an entirely new coaching staff.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's exciting or scary, I guess, at this point. But if I'm looking at the hires made so far, I think on paper, head to head, pound for pound, we're probably better.
Holgerson's that's a big time hire. Holgerson's a big boy hire. That's on the level of Chip Kelly at Ohio State. Of like, you're going to take a head coach, like an offensive mastermind, put him as your coach. That's outstanding. DC, time will tell. I do think Tennywise pretty good.
Butler I'm undecided on, and then special teams you cannot possibly get any worse. So like, we're going to get better on special teams. I mean, you could argue where special teams are better than Frost right now. But they're still just an absolute atrocity. Embarrassing. Yeah, but that's huge. And then like Terry Braden, I loved Coach Knighton and stuff, but Terry Braden he's a fairly proven entity coming from the Chiefs, who has won reliably one of the best D lines in the NFL the last 2 years when he was there. Love that hire. Secondary was kind of our weak point, which is what concerns me for Butler. But like Addison Williams has actually had some pretty solid units down at UCF, and now he's working with better talent and stuff here. And you've seen his ability to recruit already. Like we're just hauling people in the like transfer portal. It's crazy. So we've made some good moves and everything there, I think, so far. And like this is basically it is nearly an entirely new coaching staff.
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, this will be on Rule. This will be like a super interesting test of his ability to maintain some cohesiveness with you got your quarterback, you got some cohesiveness coming back with Holgorsen, you got a bunch of new faces. I just looked at we have 31 players in the transfer portal and probably going to pick up 30 more. So that's, all of it's hard, but everybody's doing it. Yeah. And so that to me is probably like the biggest thing is it's hard, but everybody's doing it. Marcus Freeman did it. Ryan Day did it. They figured out how to get their team to play together. Oregon's doing it. So it is like kind of a new age college football thing. Just see if they got it.
That's crazy.
I got one more story from my book to share with you. Yeah, we can use it to close our show out on because this is what I'm trying to figure out with Rule. So it's a Nick Saban story. It's from the book The Price. The Price is what it takes to win in college football's era of era of chaos is what it's called. Good book. It's a story of Saban, and Mike Locksley tells the story, the Maryland head football coach.
Yeah.
And he's like, he was, what is he, offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator for Saban? What was he? DC? He must have been DC. Anyway, no, he's the OC. He was the OC of the team, and they won the national championship. It was the game that they had Jalen Hurts. They benched Jalen Hurts. They brought in Tua in the second half to beat Georgia, and Tua threw that second or whatever that. Second long pass to win.
Bomb.
Awesome. Whatever year that was. They benched Jalen Hurts at halftime. Tua comes in as a freshman, leads into victory, which is crazy that both those guys are now, NFL superstars on the same roster. But he talks about Saban, and he's like, this was the single greatest moment of my coaching career. It was supposed to be the single greatest moment of my coaching career. I ascended to offensive coordinator of a national championship team. We just beat Georgia. I'm top of the world. And he said they go to a team meeting or a coach's meeting the next morning, like 8 hours later, right? And Saban is like grumpy. And it's basically walks in there and it's like, I know you guys, look, I know you guys want to celebrate. I know you guys think, last night was fun. But we did not play up to our standard. And basically Georgia should have won that game. And Georgia was beating us. They played a better game. They were better coached the entire way through. And so we're literally Saban to Loxley's we're not enjoying this offseason. This is we're back to work. Basically this was a failure. They won the national championship. And Loxley's sitting there we just won the national championship. Yeah. And this guy he's cursing us out. And I didn't even get to enjoy it. He ended up, he left, I think either that season or off season. He's like, this is ridiculous. And he left and went to Maryland. The question becomes, and this is kind of where you finish it, is that works. The Saban thing, the psychopath, he works on Christmas and New Year's and 4th of July and all of it. And the reason he was as successful as he was is because he wakes up the day after the national championship pissed off after he won.
Yeah.
And the question is, does Rule have that?
Man, I can only go off of conjecture and what is heard from the players themselves. And there was one chasing 3, I think, when they asked who's the most competitive person on the team, and more than one person said it's actually Coach Rule, and that got me pretty fired up, because the commonality between Kirby Smart, Coach Freeman now, Ryan Day, Nick Saban, is they are psycho competitors.
Yeah.
I mean, they will lay it all out there. And they might not show it in interviews and stuff, but you hear story after story after just the work and the work and the work that is put in. And Coach Rule is, I mean, you hear stories of Dylan Raiola opening his office door and he slept there overnight. I accidentally walk into his office and Coach Rule's sleeping on his couch because he stayed there overnight away from his family. I mean, like, I think that the work ethic should not be questioned. At least I certainly have not yet. And he's got that. And I think he's got the competitive edge, and I think he's got the culture building expertise. He just needs to be surrounded by coordinators who are smarter than himself to bring himself to that like next level. And I hope that Holgerson is that. I don't know about Butler, but like that's it. And then like you look at the hires that Saban has made. Look at his coaching tree.
Yep.
It's not just Saban. It's Saban demanding of his already very smart people. Hey, Steve Sarkisian, I will turn you into one of the best coaches in football if you give me everything.
Yeah. Lane Kiffin.
Loxley, Kiffin. Yeah, I mean, like all of these guys. Monken from Georgia. And
Todd Monken, yeah. I agree. I think he's got the preacher thing, he's got the family thing, he's got the love for football. Like he made $70 million for the Panthers. He never has to coach or work again a day in his life, and he is. So he's definitely wired different. He's got it going on, and I mean, time will tell. We'll see. I think it's still peculiar why we can't win in November, but I think a big piece of it too is and that's why Saban left. This is a brand new era of football. It's just a matter of how fast can Rule figure this out, right? He built it on the old model. He built it on the old model at Baylor, the old model at Temple. Like this is a new age of deals and contracts and players like Talia Tagovailoa showing up and saying, "I need $50,000 to play in a bowl game," and like that. This is a
brand for a game.
Yeah, it's a brand new era of football that you have to figure out how do you build camaraderie when like the players are driving Ferraris. That's a crazy like kind of new thing, but I still think at the end of the day, they're still 18 to 22-year-old kids. They still just want to win. Like that to me is like even the beauty of the playoff of like, I know all these guys are paid, they make a bunch of money, but you could see that true like raw emotion that they really wanted to win for their school.
Yeah.
So I hope he's got it. He's got it going on. I mean, that was a Saban example, but I was like, man, the guys who are truly at the top of the game, like the Sabans and the Kirby Smarts and Ryan Day to an extent, like these guys, it's all they think about. And it's all they do, and they don't have lives outside of it. And it's crazy that's like needed.
Yeah.
But it seems to be the only thing that's working.
Yeah, but he's got it. I mean, he absolutely has that side down. It's just that he also needs that coaching tree, and he also needs that level of talent. But like that level of talent also comes with recruiters that literally don't leave the road from the minute that national title ends.
Yeah.
Saban also had a famous quote that was like, I don't like that this title game is played so late because eating into my recruiting time.
I can't recruit.
He's like, just what a savage. He's like, this is ridiculous, this title game.
He doesn't even enjoy winning. He doesn't even enjoy winning. He doesn't even want to win. He just wants to, to dominate and go on to the next one. So
keep building,
Anyway, interesting, folks. We got 1,100 folks that have tuned in at some point throughout the show. We appreciate you guys listening, as always. We'll be back. We're going to create some sort of off-season cadence here, likely a couple times a month. Where we'll be talking about Husker sports, Husker football, off-season stuff, transfer portal, spring game, NIL, all the good stuff for the off-season. We appreciate you guys listening, and go Big Red.